Apple is so interesting, too. I think we would all agree, given its reliance on semiconductors in general for its products, and given its reliance on China for a huge chunk of its revenue, 17–20%. It's the best performing mega cap stock over the past 1 month, even though you could make the case that it has the most to lose from a trade war with China. The knock has been it's trading at a premium valuation for less than premium fundamentals. It's at 31.6 times forward earnings. Steve Kovac joins us now, our reporter, of course, who covers that stock. It's a great disconnect for people who say, wow, how is this stock still green and doing better than others when it would theoretically be so exposed to a trade war with Canada?
Yeah, that's right.
With China, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. And by the way, yesterday, once we got that confirmation from the president that these tariffs were happening, we saw the stock drop 1.5%. It's up about 0.5% now. And let's get some perspective here, what they think, analysts think the impact of these tariffs are going to be. They haven't gone through the second round and done that analysis yet, but the first round, they said it's going to be low to single-digit percentage hit to earnings. We'll see what they say for this round, but, you know, they have to make this calculation now. Do they increase prices or do they absorb those costs? Either way, it could hurt them. So we do have some guesses here of what could be happening with the iPhone 16e, for example. That was a new phone they announced a couple weeks ago. That was a $170 price increase over the last model. And just this morning, though, we had an opposite example. There's a new iPad Air model that came out today, that was announced today, starting at $599. That's the exact same price that last year's version cost. And we're also expecting one more product to come out this week. That's a new version of the MacBook Air. Apple's been pretty silent, though, to be honest, about what's going on with these tariff impacts, how they're thinking about pricing. iPhone pricing is going to be the most important. They can probably absorb things from the Mac and the iPad and those lesser products, but iPhone is where all the money is, and they're not going to be able to shift enough of those supplies of those iPhones they make in India, bring it over to the United States. They're still reliant on China. And I want to point to what the Best Buy CEO said today. His vendors are expected to raise their prices. Apple is one of those vendors, and it hits all those other PC makers we talk about. That means Dell, that means HP, and it also impacts Microsoft. Microsoft has already warned Windows revenue could take a hit as well, Scott.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Steve, thank you. That's Steve Kovac. Brian, I mean, maybe investors just simply think that, you know, Tim Cook's trying to make Trump his BFF, and they're going to get some kind of exemption from a lot of these tariffs, or that there's not going to be a protectionist play on China's part related to American products like the iPhone relative to competitors over in China. But Apple's already, like, we've already seen market share issues over there. What do you make of the fact that the stock has traded, I think, reasonably well, pretty darn well, when it would be front and center here?
Yeah, this program in particular has done a really wonderful job talking about Apple the last couple of months or so, especially given the fact of where we've seen multiples that have been inflated, where we've seen all of this performance the last couple of years in the Magnificent Seven. But our comments remain resolute. We think that Apple, of the seven, should be the one that you overweight. Why? Because of cash flow. But we also think, too, is that a lot of times on the show we talk about quality. If you screen the S&P 500 for quality, it's going to reign supreme with respect to a lot of tech stocks. So that's number one. Number two, when people get worried about the market, Scott, you go back to historically, you go back to liquidity. So what are the largest stocks in the market? The big tech stocks. So Apple checks a lot of boxes there. That's why we've continued to own it for all of these years, and that's why we're going to continue to overweight it in our tech holdings.
Sure, but